It doesn't matter if you're in the woods during the day or at night. They can be a scary place.
The woods don't just hide animals. Sometimes they hide evidence of pranks, crimes, lost history, and human choices that never got a clean ending. So, if a trail suddenly feels watched, keep walking. We're counting down 10 discoveries that prove why. Number 10. Clothes. In March 2019, David Kurota, his wife, their daughter, and a couple of her friends were poking around a strip of woodland behind their home in Bergen County, New Jersey, right beside a major highway, when something in the undergrowth caught their eye: a pile of clothes. Not tossed, not scattered, placed. They picked them up and then dropped them almost instantly. The jeans, bra, t-shirt, and underwear had been cut in a way that looked like they'd been forcibly removed, and there were stains that appeared to be blood. Police couldn't link the clothing to any missing person report or crime, and without that connection, it couldn't be sent for testing. Some later suggested a less sinister possibility: clothes cut off by paramedics during an emergency, but if that's true, why were they left behind so neatly? Number 9. Sacrificial altar. In 2018, deep in the jungle near Guatemala's border with Mexico, someone spotted what looked like a plain stone tablet. Nothing flashy, just a hard edge peeking out where it didn't belong. But the tablet wasn't sitting on the ground. A tree had literally swallowed it. Roots had grown around the stone so completely that it was entombed like a fossil in living wood. Researchers spent almost a full year removing it with painstaking care, peeling the roots away without cracking the carvings. And when it finally came free, the stone started talking. It showed a double-headed serpent and the name of a previously unknown Maya king, Chak Took Ich'aak, etched into its surface. Suddenly, this wasn't just an artifact. It was a 1500-year-old Mayan altar. Here's the chill that settles in after the excitement. Altars like this weren't decorative. They were functional, stages for ritual sacrifice. Clean and harmless looking in a museum, sure, but in its original world, this stone may have witnessed hundreds of deaths. The jungle didn't just preserve history here. It wrapped it up, sealed it tight, and waited for someone brave enough to pull it back into the light. Number 8. Freezer with body parts. Imagine stepping off a highway in rural Alaska, only a few paces into the trees, and seeing the corner of a chest freezer sticking out of the ground like someone tried to erase it from the world. That's what troopers responded to in April 2021 near Tok, about 100 feet into the woods off the Tok Cutoff Highway, when a report came in before sunrise. The freezer was partially buried, and inside were human remains. Investigators immediately treated it as a homicide investigation, sealing the area and bringing in forensic support, because a freezer in the woods isn't an accident, it's a decision. And that's the part that stays with you. The forest didn't create this horror. It just provided the hiding place and waited. Number 7. German hand grenade. A jogger in a Bavarian forest near Passau spotted a transparent bag on the ground, and inside it, what looked like a World War II-era hand grenade. One call later, a bomb squad rolled in, because Germany still finds old munitions often enough that you don't guess with something like that. Then came the moment every responder secretly hopes for. It wasn't live ordnance at all. Police determined the grenade was a rubber replica, a novelty sex toy, especially obvious once they noticed condoms and lubricant in the same bag. It's funny, sure, but it also proves something uncomfortable. In the woods, even a harmless prank can trigger real fear, real resources, and a very real what if before anyone gets the punchline. Number 6. The Devil's Tramping Ground. In Chatham County, North Carolina, there's a circle in the woods, about 40 feet across, where the ground stays oddly bare, like something has been pacing it raw for years. Locals call it the Devil's Tramping Ground, and the legend says the devil walks that ring at night, thinking up new trouble. People claim animals won't cross it, and that objects left in the circle don't stay put. Skeptics point to soil conditions, but the reason the circle remains so stubbornly lifeless is still argued over, which is exactly why the place keeps pulling curious campers back in. hoping the woods finally explain themselves. Number 5. Free Hugs Hut. Deep in the forests of Washington state, hikers once stumbled onto a tiny wooden shack nailed together from mismatched boards. It looked rough, temporary, like it had been built in a hurry. But what stopped people in their tracks wasn't the structure. It was the message scrawled across the front: free hugs. Inside, the hut was empty. No bedding, no food, no sign of who built it or why. Just a small enclosed space hidden far from any road, as if someone expected strangers to step inside without asking questions. Photos of the shack spread online, and the internet quickly turned it into something more sinister, a possible trap, a social experiment, or just the work of someone who wanted to unsettle whoever found it. No one ever confirmed its purpose, and eventually the structure disappeared, either taken down or reclaimed by the forest. But the idea lingers. In a place where silence already feels heavy, a cheerful message can sometimes feel more threatening than a warning sign. Number 4. 114-year-old headstone. In December 2012, a hiker walking near Davenport in Santa Cruz County, California, noticed a carved stone jutting out of the ground, something he'd apparently seen years earlier, but this time he stopped and looked closer. It wasn't just a rock, it was a headstone, abandoned in the woods. When he reported it to the local Museum of Art and History, the story got even darker. The marker belonged to Mary Holmes, a woman described as a prostitute who lived locally in the late 1800s and died by suicide in 1897 after drinking carbolic acid. She'd originally been buried at Evergreen Cemetery, yet her stone ended up beside the highway, half swallowed by dirt. Who moved it, and why? Number 3. Face carvings. At first, Storrs Millwood near Barnsley, England feels like the kind of place you'd walk through on autopilot. Birds, damp air, the quiet crunch of gravel under your shoes. Then you notice the rock walls. Not just rocks, faces. Carved eyes, noses, half smiles. Staring from cliff edges like the forest has been watching hikers for a very long time. Locals call them the Cudworth Stone Faces, and nobody even agrees on how many are out there. Ask around and you'll hear stories stacked like old firewood. Druids carved them to guard a spiritually significant pathway. Monks etched them as protectors for travelers. Or maybe they honor Viking warriors who once defended nearby villagers. Each version turns a simple walk into a myth you can step into. But the twist is almost funnier than the legends. The truth is that the faces aren't ancient at all. They were created recently by 2 local artists, Melvin Dickinson and Billy Johnson. Still, even when you know that, it doesn't fully diffuse the feeling, because there's something unnerving about being in a quiet wood and realizing the landscape has been given expressions, like the forest learned how to stare back. Number 2. Deteriorating dolls. South of Mexico City, hidden in the canals of Xochimilco, sits a small island where the trees don't grow fruit or flowers. They grow dolls. Hundreds of them, rotting, limbless, sun-bleached, dangling from branches like silent witnesses. The place is known as the Island of the Dolls, and its story traces back to a man named Don Julian Santana. According to local accounts, he found the body of a young girl in the canal near his home. Soon after, he claimed her spirit haunted the island. To appease it, he began collecting discarded dolls from the water and hanging them in the trees, believing they would calm the restless soul. For decades, he kept adding more. The dolls decayed, their plastic faces cracked, eyes clouded, hair tangled by wind and rain. Then, in 2001, Don Julian was found dead in the same canal where he said the girl had drowned. Today, the island draws visitors from around the world, not because of what's proven, but because of how it feels, like the forest remembers something no one else can. Number 1. Breathing Earth. In 2015, a Canadian man named Brian Nuttall was walking through the woods near Apple River, Nova Scotia, when he noticed something that didn't make sense. The forest floor wasn't still. It was rising and falling, slow, steady, like the ground itself was breathing. He filmed it, and the footage quickly spread online. Entire sections of soil seemed to lift into the air, then settle back down, as if some giant creature were moving just beneath the surface. For a moment, it looked supernatural, like the forest had come alive. but the explanation turned out to be both simple and strangely fascinating. Strong winds were bending the treetops, and because the roots were still locked into the earth, the movement traveled downward, causing the ground to heave with each gust. What looked like something living under the soil was really the forest acting as one connected system. And that's what makes the woods so unsettling. Sometimes the strangest things you find out there aren't monsters or mysteries. They're real forces, quiet, natural, and powerful enough to make the earth itself appear to breathe. So the next time you step into the woods and the world goes quiet, remember what that silence can hold. Sometimes it's a prank stapled to a tree. Sometimes it's history buried under leaves. And sometimes it's something human, hidden on purpose, waiting for the wrong person to find it first. If you enjoyed this countdown, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which discovery creeped you out the most. And what's the strangest thing you've ever found on a trail?